You're listening to the Listing a Week podcast, a podcast that teaches real estate agents how to generate a listing a week and grow their business. My name is Todd Tramonte, and I'm a Dallas, Texas-based real estate broker, author, radio host, team leader, and real estate coach. And I'm sitting down with my team of agents to talk about how they generate a listing a week or more, the lessons they've learned, and how they differentiate in a noisy real estate industry, and how you can too. The simplest way to add as many listings as you want to your business, and I'm not exaggerating. The simplest way to add a listing a week or 2 listings a week or 3 listings a week to your business. Now, simple and easy are different words.
Very different.
But the simplest way I know to add listings, and truthfully, add listings, add buyers, add agents to your team or your brokerage, get referrals. There's one thing, and it's that simple. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. We've got Ian Daniels with us in the studio today. As most of you know, Ian is the team lead on my team, the Todd Tramonte home selling team, our team, I should say, and does a little bit of everything with our team. I don't know that we talk about your day-to-day very often, but I'll give a quick little blurb. Ian sets an appointment a day or so for our team. So a portion of his job is setting appointments for listings and buyers. He also leads and encourages and trains and holds accountable our agents and team members, and then also works on all sorts of projects and strategy as we constantly improve process. And then he also works with me with our coaching and consulting clients. So there's just a couple of things that Ian does around here. We've got producer Mason behind the camera. If you happen to be catching this on, there it is. There's his hand. If you happen to be catching this on YouTube, if you're listening and getting audio only, you can head over to realestategrowthsystems.com whenever you want, and you can catch a video of every episode of the podcast, as well as a bunch of other weekly videos that we do. We usually do a Q&A video, just a question we get from an agent on our team, a coaching client, a consulting client, or maybe just a Facebook Live viewer or a YouTube viewer or whatever, social media conference visitor. It could be anything.
I'm not sure anyone's ever heard Mason's voice on this.
Probably not on the podcast. On our local legit radio show, right. We do give him a microphone from time to time, but we try to limit that. That shouldn't be a regular thing. Mason's grown a beard that's beginning to create a voice of its own, and we want to be careful.
Yeah, I'm proud of him for that.
Well,
he's been a man of a beard myself.
He's a big boy now. He's really growing up right before our eyes. He's all grows up, and he's all grows up, and he's all grows up. And if you catch that quote, please comment below the video or give us a review on the podcast, because we will appreciate your brilliance and intelligence for knowing what movie that came from.
One last thing on Mason. He got married how many months ago? How many months, Mason?
He should know.
3 months ago, and he's basically aged about 36 years.
Mostly because of the beard and haircut, not because of his delightful wife. Let's be real clear about that.
All in just
Ginny's
the physical appearance.
Ginny's a saint, I said. So anyway, let's get into it. What you already know what I'm going to talk about, but how would you communicate the simplest way to go and add listings to your business?
Prospect.
All right, people. We're going to wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in. No, I'm just kidding.
Email, text, and call.
You can call it whatever you want. So here's the deal. If you prospect 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, you'll have all the clients you want. Right? Now, there's a lot of nuance to that, and we'll spend the rest of the episode talking about who do you prospect, how do you prospect, do you call, do you text, do you email, do you door knock, do you send direct mail, is that expired, is it FSBOs, is it internet leads, is it Zillow, is it Realtor.com, is it distressed sellers, is it this or that or the other. But
what I want to break it down too is to how many calls to make. Like, we have that, we do it for every single person on our team,
sure.
But we can help you understand.
Yeah, what are conversion rates and what's possible, what's total baloney that people tell you they're doing and when there's no way they're doing it.
You'll be shocked when you actually calculate how many calls a day you actually need to make to hit your target.
Right, and then you'd be shocked at how hard it is to actually stay consistent at that.
Right.
And that's where we're saying it's different. It's simple, but it's not easy. But if you want to master one skill, we're also going to talk a little bit about a challenge that our team is doing right now around mental toughness. And that's the missing ingredient. Yeah. It isn't leads. It isn't really even skill. Now, we're going to talk about ways where your skill can drive up your conversion rate and obviously impact all of this. But Jim Rohn said decades ago that you can make up for, and you can make up for in numbers what you lack in skill. Okay? You can make up for in numbers what you lack in skill. So the fact remains that even if you stink at this, if you would prospect for 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, you'll still have plenty of clients.
You'll accidentally stumble into appointments.
You will get clients, right? You'll get the appointments. Then same thing is true for the appointments though. Right. If you do enough of them, you'll get plenty of clients. You can make up for in numbers, in effort, in mass effort, what you lack in skill. Now, obviously, we teach our agents and coach and consult with agents all over the country about doing both, having the numbers and the skill, and that's how you can build a really tremendous business. But to get back to the core point, it is a very simple concept that if you'll get your behind up and out of bed and get to work early and prospect from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. or from 8:30 to 11:30 every single day, that's all you would need to do to generate business. Now, I recommend you do a little bit more, but that's all you would need to do to make a great living and potentially like top tier living, selling houses for sellers or to buyers, period. If you will do that 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, you will not lack the opportunity, period. We could wrap up the whole episode right there, but we're not. So let's talk about some of the nuance and details of that. Before we get into those numbers and the strategy and the style and the scripts, which I'm happy to share any and all of that, I do want to talk real quick about, we said that missing link was the discipline and the mental toughness. Yeah. So I listened to a podcast recently by Andy Frisella. If you're familiar with his podcast, great, check it out. I actually don't listen to it a ton, but somebody sent me an episode, and so I listened to it, and then it encouraged me to do something a little bit different. But he was talking about this challenge that he has for himself, and that he's invited thousands and thousands of people to jump in on, and people are having all kinds of success. His deal is called 75 Hard. Basically, he created 5 things that he challenges people to do, 5 things every single day for 75 days. If you miss one of the 5 on any of those days, you have to go back and start over. But you got to get 75 days straight. So it might take you 2 years to do 75 days in a row. If you're like a world beater, it might be those first 75 days. But 75 days is a long time. It will absolutely create a habit or rid you of a bad habit. And if you can go 75 days on all 5, then you will be able to gut check a tremendous level of mental toughness and say, look, I didn't make any exceptions. I made sacrifices. I went out of my way. I got it done. Now, his 5 things are, in my opinion, a little, I'm trying to be nice here, but they're a little bit rigid and kind of hard-lined in one category that I don't care all that much of. I don't need to be a bodybuilder, right? I'll just say that. So I did my own 5 things, and I'm happy to share them here on the podcast. And then I told our team about it at a team meeting a couple of weeks ago. And I said, here's what I'm doing. I'm inviting any of you that want to join me. And every single person on the team jumped in. And I'll just say it's been really, really exciting. So we don't need
hard. Like, it really is hard.
It is hard. And some of the things that you think would be the easiest things are the hardest things, because they're the easiest things to overlook and forget and delay. And then you got to get it done. So tell you what, I'll share my 5. If you want to share your 5, you can. And then we'll get back to
Mason wants to share his 5.
Setting appointments, but remembering that this is the biggest hurdle to cross.
Yep.
It's the discipline and mental toughness of doing something even when you don't want to do it, of doing something even when you're tired, of doing something when the weather's not right and you're not feeling great, and there's something you'd rather be doing or something that feels more important to be doing, and just doing it anyway. And that's what we're talking about. If you would do the 3 hours of prospecting every day that way, so many of your business problems would go away. Not all of them, by all means, not all of them, but so many of the fears and nervousness and distress you have around making money, getting clients, appointments, conversion, all those things would literally go away.
But a part of his point on this whole podcast, I haven't listened to it, but so correct me if I'm wrong, but by the time your 75 days is up, it is a habit now, right?
Right.
You don't want to change.
You've eliminated a bad habit. Actually, his really weren't about eliminating. It was adding these 5 habits. And his were like workouts, drinking a ton of water, having a hardcore diet, taking a progress picture every day, and doing some educational reading, right? My 5 are a healthy diet, which I've defined specifically. It doesn't really matter for today. To pray with my wife every night, because to be honest, that's something I've been committed to for 15 years of marriage and just haven't done a very good job with. You know, our faith is by far the driving force of our life in every single area of our life. But that's an area I just haven't done well. So that's a habit I want to dramatically improve. Number 3 is I kind of borrowed from him, but I want to work out an hour a day, two different 30-minute workouts. I don't care if they're back-to-back or if they're different parts of the day, but 30 minutes of cardio and 30 minutes of strength training. I want to read God's Word, my Bible, for 30 minutes a day, and then I want to read 30 minutes of something else educational and instructional 30 minutes a day. Now, there's like 100 things I wanted to put on here, but those were the 5 where I felt like I needed to grow the most. I needed to improve my mental strength the most. I didn't put something on here that I'm already doing really well just so I could check it off. I did 5 things that I thought, like, for example, getting into God's Word. I'm probably doing that 3 or 4 days a week, but I want to do it 7 days a week.
Right.
So that's something I added so I won't compromise for 75 days. You want to share yours real quick?
Yeah, so mine was to be in the Bible for 20 minutes a day, as well as reading with my kids every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I was probably in it 3 or 4 days a week. We would read sporadically with our kids, and it's been awesome. Eating fruits and vegetables with every meal. If I have breakfast, make sure it's with breakfast. A lot of grapes. I found that
Delicious.
Love
You ever
grapes.
freeze them?
Huh?
Freeze them and eat them?
No.
Try that.
Just in the
Super good.
Anyway, 4 big Yetis of water every day, and 45 minutes of exercise every day. Which for me, I was doing, again, 3, maybe 4 days a week.
Right.
7's hard, man.
Yeah.
It's tough.
The cool thing, and we're like, what, 12 days in?
12 days. This is day 12.
I'm 11 for 11. You're 11 for 11.
11 for 11.
About half of the group members have had to restart, which is good, though, because they're practicing that discipline of being honest with themselves and saying, I'm not going to just BS everybody and stay in this thing. I'm going to start over. But again, what it's already creating in just 12 days is that discipline of having to do it, the mental toughness. But no one's really seeing results yet, right? Like you're seeing results with your kids. I'm seeing results with my wife in this prayer time.
Right.
But no one's body's transformed yet. People aren't like, man, you're a different person.
Right.
So it's hard. I'm hoping that like day 30 and 40 and 50, it's like, then it starts to get easier because you're seeing results and you're building on that. But again, the only reason we just shared that is because that's the reason people don't do this. That's the reason people put 2 to 3 hours of prospecting on a calendar and do 2 per day and end up doing 2 to 3 hours per week.
Right.
Literally 80% less than their goal or their business plan or their commitment said they would do. And everyone that's supposed to hold them accountable is doing the same stupid crap.
Yeah.
Right? They're also saying, I'm going to do this, and then they go do 20% of it. So...
Well, we just reported numbers from yesterday.
Right.
And one person's on the team that said, I did 7 calls yesterday. And my response to that person was, is that your daily goal, 7? They're like, well, no, it's like 30 or 30 something.
39.
Like, okay, so what are you gonna do today? And jokingly, she was like, I'm 500 calls. I'm like, no, you're not gonna do 500 calls, but you do need to do like 56
to get your numbers
to
right,
make sure that
right.
it goes back from yesterday. And they're like, yeah, you're right.
So let's get into some of that stuff. All right, when we say prospecting, we generally mean picking up the phone and calling someone in the daily prospecting commitment. Now, I don't care if you said I'm going to prospect 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, and you got 14 solid hours of prospecting in, and then you go to a networking event, whatever. Man, if that works for you, that's fine. But again, when you talk about rigid mental discipline, rigid mental toughness, I would say get your 15 hours in of regular prospecting and then go do that. So there's no compromise on it. There's no excuses. There's no reason you're not going to hit your goal. So you want to talk a little bit about just some of what that ought to produce for some, like we're in a market that's honestly pretty average for the country. We're in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, with an office in Dallas, an office in Fort Worth. We'll sell a couple of hundred houses this year for a couple of $1 million in GCI, and our average transactions 270, 275, 280, depending if you're talking about the buy side or the sell side.
Yep.
We have a much higher than average commission rate, but that's probably a conversation for another day. If you want to learn about that, go to alistingaweek.com, alistingaweek.com. We'll talk more about that though. But
yeah, and we've got 5 full-time agents right now.
Right.
Well, I guess we've got 7 right now. 2 just came out of training a couple weeks ago.
The numbers we just talked about
training.
are 5, and then our numbers will increase as these 2 get on.
So the reality is, let me kind of break down the numbers if I can. So when you're starting to figure this out, one, you need to decide how much do I want to make this year. So let's just say you want to make $100,000 this year. And then you need to figure out, okay, what are my numbers? What's my conversion numbers? How many calls do I have to make to talk to a person? How many people do I have to talk to set an appointment? How many appointments do I have to set to sign clients?
How many appointments do I have to set for someone to show up at an appointment?
And then sign.
And then how many people have to show up to sign a client?
Right.
And the reason this sounds obnoxious, but is one thing doesn't necessarily lead to the other. A call is not always a contact.
No.
A contact is not always an appointment. An appointment doesn't always actually happen. The ones that happen don't always sign. The ones that sign don't always close.
So let me give you our numbers, like very abbreviated numbers. So it takes about 16 calls or so to get a pickup, for somebody to answer the phone. So one person picks up every 16-ish calls. For every 12 people that you talk to, you will set an appointment on our team. Okay? Every 10 appointments, 7 of them will show up, and 4 of them will sign, and 3 of them will close. Okay?
Go through all those one more time for somebody that's listening.
Okay.
Write this down. These are reliable averages. Obviously, we have some team members that dominate these numbers, and then we have some newer team members that are right about here.
Some people it's in the 20s, some people it's in the teens, right? It's different. So for every 16 calls that you make, on average, you'll talk to one person. And I mean a good conversation.
Yeah, that's what I was going to clarify.
I don't mean somebody picking up the phone and saying, not interested, take me off your list.
12 to 15% of the people we contact, but that's not a quality contact. And who cares about that? It takes
good conversation.
In our market, blah, 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 blah. It takes about 16 calls to have a legitimate conversation.
In my mind, a good conversation, if we're going to kind of lay all this out, is it either moves you down the road a little bit further with somebody, or it ends it. In my mind. So
like you have a clear idea of your next step.
Right.
And that's about 6.25%.
Yeah. So every 16 people, you'll get 1 good contact. About every 12 good contacts, you'll get 1 appointment. Okay? For every 10 appointments that you set, so we've talked to 120 people, you've now got about 10 appointments, 7 of them are going to show up. Because you're going to have cancellations, you're going to have no-shows,
and let me just interject.
Reschedules.
This depends on lead source a little bit, right?
It does.
So our lead sources are pretty varied. If you've been following us for very long, I think you need 3 to 4 quality lead sources. You can have a lot more, but you need about 3 primaries. Let's say 2 to 4 primary lead sources. For us right now, that's repeat and referral, radio, and home search leads. Yep. Now we have a few others, but those are the dominant ones. So obviously, if it's all internet leads, your show-up rate is going to be a little bit lower because they started out as strangers to you. If they were all repeat and referral, your show-up rate should be pretty much 100. because they all start out high trust. So just these are reliable numbers because these are averaged over multiple lead sources that are fairly typical. Radio is not typical. Not everyone's going to have radio. And based on research, not everyone's going to have as high of a referral rate as us. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people aren't going to do as much internet stuff as us. So I think these are reliable averages for just about everybody.
Yeah. So every 10 appointments that you have, 7 of them are going to show up. Of the 7 that show up, on average, 4 are going to sign. Depends. Sellers, buyers, but we're talking about averages. And of the 4 that sign, 3 of them will close. Because inevitably, it's a hard word apparently, somebody's not going to close. They're going to change their mind, situation changes, whatever that looks like. So let's just use on average $4,000 per closing. You need 25 closings to be able to hit $100,000. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you break it down, keep breaking those numbers down, you're going to find out you need to make somewhere between 40 and 60 calls a day, depending on what your particular numbers are, on average.
And your average commission and all those things.
Right. It all changes. But for the most part, everybody on our team, because we know everybody's individual conversion numbers, fall somewhere between 40 and 60 calls per day.
Right.
That is not. That is doable.
First of all, what I do every time we build this business plan, and that's what this is a prospecting plan, this is a sales plan. I tell them, great, that's what you need to do. Now go double it. Like, get yourself ahead because life is going to happen and you're going to be sick and you're going to go on vacation. So,
here's what inevitably happens too, is let's just call it 40, right? You add your daily numbers 40. Well, I made 37 today. It's pretty close.
Yeah.
I made 36. I got pretty good. I made 41 today. Okay. Well, then you add up all those things. You go, man, I made 570 calls less than what I was supposed to. Why didn't I hit my goal?
Right. But the fact of the matter is,
that's why.
No one's even doing that. No. They're saying, oh, I'm behind my goal, man. The market sucks.
Need more clients.
Leads aren't very good.
How can I help you in your business? I need more clients.
And luckily, our team, that's really not a big issue here, but it doesn't mean very rarely is anyone 100% on this plan on our team, and I think our team members are fantastic. The fact of the matter is this. There's one number in there that stood out to me, and I want to make a really important point about it. You said out of every 10 appointments that happen, we'll sign about 4 of them. That sounds really, really low.
4 of 7.
I'm sorry, out of every 7, 4 will sign. That still sounds low if depending on how you're looking at this, right? If you've been selling 8, 9, 10, 11 houses a year and they've all been referral based, you're probably signing pretty much everyone you meet with, right? If you have been like 100% internet lead and you have 1,000 leads a month or whatever, that might actually sound high. But the reason those are the numbers on our team is because that combines buyer appointments, seller appointments, a variety of lead types, and here's the point I want to make. A team that is very selective about our ideal client.
Well, there's one other thing too. Often somebody might be 6 months away, but we're going to go out there. We're having an appointment with them,
right?
Consultation with them, but we're not going to sign them that day. We're going to sign them in 6 months from now. But this is
But we track it. We would rather track critically than generously and dilute ourselves on our numbers.
Absolutely.
So the point is, that's what 60% or something like that.
Yep.
Reality is our numbers are probably more like 70 to 75 if you did a true eventually they close or whatever. But I'd rather be working on moving that number up all the time than feeling really confident in it. But I just wanted to point that out for people. A big element of that too is that just because someone wants to hire us doesn't mean we want them to hire us. So there are times where we'll meet with someone and say they're unrealistic and we're not going to choose to work with them. We don't want to be hired by them. And you should do that too. And if you'll prospect 3 hours a day every day, you'll have so much opportunity that you can.
It's one of my favorite things when I get to say that to somebody on the phone. Mm-hmm. Hey, we'll come, we'll sit down, we'll have a good conversation. Honestly though, there's a chance we may not end up working together. we don't work with everybody that we meet with. It has to be a good fit for both sides of things.
Yeah.
If we're not the best fit for you or you're not the best fit for us, I love saying that piece of it.
Yep.
Because then immediately they're like, well, why wouldn't I be a good fit
Yeah,
for
you guys are going to sit down together and you'll have an opportunity to decide if our agent, our system, our process is ideal for you, and our team member will have an opportunity to decide if you and your situation and your home are the right fit for us.
Yeah.
What do you mean about that right fit thing? Well, we don't work with everybody. As a matter of fact, nobody can work with everybody. Nobody's the right fit and the right expert for everybody. So I learned this line from Joe Stump, we'll have mutual permission to reject. If we're not the right fit for you, feel free to tell us that. If you're not the right fit for us, we'll let you know.
If you're listening to this now, think back on the people that you wish you'd never worked with. Mm-hmm. We had one guy on our team recently signed a client that was less than ideal.
Did we see that one coming?
It was a low price point that was looking very far away, and we told him from the beginning, do not sign this person. But brand new, out of training, felt like he needed to sign them, and so he did. And then quickly realized this isn't great. And then his good news of the day, we share good news every single morning at 8:30 on our team. His good news of the day was this person decided to not buy a house anymore and stay in whatever state they were in. And he was so happy about it.
And it's better in that scenario when you as the agent take control and end it yourself, as opposed to their life stage, their life plans changing.
But he realized after we had said, don't do this, don't do it, and he was like, no, it'll be fine. And then he realized,
And as a new agent, that's an affordable way to learn that lesson. As an experienced agent, you want to build your business to the point that you can be selective. And that's what we're talking about. If you prospect 3 hours a day, every single day. Now, let's get into a little bit of the nuance. Who are they prospecting? And we don't need to get into scripts and all that. We've done plenty of that. We'll do more of it in the future. But who are these people that I'm going to call 3 hours a day, every single day?
Yeah, so on our team, the most part, people are calling home search leads.
And when we say home search, we mean someone who has come to our website and started to search properties, and then willingly opted in, willingly gave us a name, a phone number, and an email.
Notice we called them home search leads and not buyer leads.
Well, why don't we call them buyer leads?
Well, some of them may have a home to sell.
A solid percentage of them do have a home to sell, and our favorites among them have a home to sell and buy. Why would someone be searching houses online if they have a house to sell?
They're thinking of making a move.
Well, and I say that, deliberately, patronizingly, but the point is, in a market like the one we're currently in, people are more worried about the buying side of their transaction than they are the selling side.
Yeah, they really are.
So they're going to go online and look and say, I'm pretty confident I can sell, but what could I get with that money? Is there enough inventory available where I want to go? Am I going to have to spend too much money there, and should I just stay where I am? So there's a tremendous number of sellers that are online looking a lot like buyers before they'll ever acknowledge that they're a seller. So we call them home search leads, just to be reminded that they could be one or both.
Well, and because too, we want to make sure we're asking them, do you have a home to sell, right? I just told somebody yesterday, sign up as a buyer, looking at homes. Hey, what's your situation? I'm going through some personal stuff. I am going to have a house to sell, but I need to buy a house first. It's like, okay, if you only think of it as a buyer lead, you wouldn't even have got there.
Yeah, and then we track that today as one appointment. We don't get greedy with the numbers.
Right.
And then if that turns into a sell side appointment next, we'll track that later.
Exactly.
But again, you got to be brutally honest with yourself, and you got to be mentally strong and mentally disciplined to track one way and always track that way. And then you'll know, am I up, am I down, or my average is up, or am I down? Is my pipeline healthy, or is it weak? Is it inflated because I had a good month and I'm overly confident? Or is it deflated because I had a weird month, but I should be more confident because I've been doing what I need to do? And I trust the process. And the outcome today isn't necessarily reflective of the outcome over the quarter or over the year, where those numbers will always flesh out. So, real quick, the majority of what we're prospecting as a team is home search leads. We also have some seller valuation leads in there, where someone went to a property valuation tool and signed up. We have radio leads. There's a couple of different kinds of radio leads. We get some radio-generated seller valuations, some radio-generated home search. Most of our radio are super high quality. Here's the property I want to sell. Can you help me get some more information? We obviously have a high number of repeat and referral business, about 45 to 55% of our business, depending what moment you're checking. But over the years, a little more than half. We definitely get some open house business. We get some email marketing business, newsletter business. But those three dominant ones are home search, repeat referral, and radio. And
let me say something really, really quick. You better be following up with these people.
Right.
Because even the highest quality leads, which in our case would be radio, very, very few of them answer that phone call the first time you call them.
Right. And that was kind of my next point is, do I have enough leads to call 15 hours a week if I'm going to call 40, 50, 60 a day? Hopefully more than that, but at minimum 40, 50, 60 a day. And the answer is maybe, but you're going to call most of these people 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times and talk to them 2, 3, 4, 5 times. I mean, you're going to call them tons of times. You may talk to them, 5 to 10 times over the course of a year or 2 or sometimes more. Some of them are going to do business with you within 30 days.
Yeah.
Most of them are going to do business with you 6 to 18 months out. If you plan on being in business 6 to 18 months from now, that's great. You're constantly churning that pipeline.
To give you an example, like a real life example, an appointment I set yesterday, the one I just mentioned earlier, he signed up on our website. I want to say it was towards the end of last week. I called him at least 7 or 8 times, left him 3 or 4 voicemails. We traded about 9 or 10 emails before we ever finally spoke on the phone. So 15, 16 touches before we ever got it. I know for as a fact, one of the guys that we just hired on our team, the brokerage he was at, he was told, if you don't get in touch with them after 2 attempts, forget them.
Yep.
It took me 15.
Only. Now business only is what the industry has always taught. Now, there are some coaches and consultants out there that are, teaching hardcore sales prospecting. We're not talking about hardcore kick the door in. We're talking about 3 hours a day will get you all you want. If you understand this is a long-term business. Yeah. They're not all going to want to do business right now. If you put someone in your pipeline 6 months from now, that's now business. That's how you get the bulk of your now business, is you hope that 6 months ago you were busting your tail.
You know what? There's now business out there too, but they don't answer the phone. They're busy. They've got stuff going on at work. They're in the kids' soccer game.
And you'll get them in the flow of building a really healthy, attractive pipeline. So we could talk about this forever and ever and ever. Is there anything you want to share that you feel like we haven't shared before we wrap up today?
No, I feel like the follow-up was really the biggest one. Making those calls, following up, being consistent, do what the thing you say you're going to do. Don't lie to yourself. If you want to make this as a business, please remember, this is a business. You own a business. You need to stick to the things that you say you're going to do.
And you're lying to yourself
to your business plan.
If you say, I'm going to do 10 or 12 or 15 hours of prospecting a week, and you do none or 1 or 2 or 3.
If you say you're going to make 50 calls a day, don't make 49.
Yep.
Or if you happen to make 49, make 51 the next one.
Yep.
Right? Make sure that all those numbers actually happen.
And if you want to do what we did and create your own, we call our challenge 75 strong, to be mentally strong. We did it differently than Andy Frisella. We didn't want to brand it like him. Obviously, we created our own. If you want to create your own, I'm challenging you right now to 15 hours of prospecting every week for the next, 75 weeks? It's like...
25 weeks or days?
75 days. It's 2.5 months.
Yeah, like November 15th.
10 weeks, So for the next 10 weeks, 15 hours of prospecting every week. You don't have to go 7 days a week, is my point. You can do this in 5 days a week if you'll do the 3 hours a day.
One last thing, because I just saw a little rhino bacon thing right there. We'll explain that another day. But if you want to get fired up to do this, not only listen to that podcast, but read or listen to the book, The Rhinoceros Success.
Yeah, Rhinoceros Success.
It's awesome. And it's basically the biggest thing that I got out of that was you can be one of two things. You can be a cow that sits in the field just chewing grass all day with no purpose, or you can be a rhino and you can wake up and get after it and go charge hard and go and do
through whatever you got to do, the obstacle in front of you to get to where you want to get. So, to reiterate the point, the simplest thing that you can do to add listings or buyers or agents or whatever it is that you're working on to your business is to prospect consistently every single day. I recommend 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. The lead type almost doesn't matter. Your script almost doesn't matter. Your follow-up system almost doesn't matter. Now, I say almost because there's a difference in Jim Rohn style, just pounded out with sheer numbers, and high conversion numbers. Your life will be much easier when you increase your skill and build systems and strategies, and we can help you with that. Go to alistingaweek.com. But that's the only real difference I'm talking about. Increasing skill. Skill or not, if you will do this 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, you'll have all the business you can handle. It's not easy to do. It requires significant mental discipline and commitment. But it's simple. And there's not a lot of things in our business that are this simple. So that's my challenge to you. If you can go the next 6 weeks 10 weeks, the next 10 weeks, 10 business weeks of 3 hours of prospecting every single workday, 5 days a week, I'll be baffled if at the end of that you don't have a tremendous amount of business. And that's just the beginning of what we just said, because it's going to get better as that pipeline and follow-up pipeline matures. So anyway, if we can ever help you with anything, or if you're looking for some additional free resources about adding a listing a week to your business or a buyer a week, head over to alistingaweek.com. alistingaweek.com. There's some free video resources for you there. There is obviously also some paid options there. Don't be shocked when we offer you an opportunity to jump into some coaching or buy a product. You don't have to do any of that. But go to alistingaweek.com. Check out the free resources at least. If we can ever help you with anything, let us know. If you're on video, comment below. If you're catching this on the podcast, we would love a review if you found this valuable. If you didn't find it valuable, forget about that, and we'll talk to you on the next one. Over and out.
Cheerio.